Hello, this is KBL Soul Muse. Today, I'm greeting you from my workspace. With my dog here beside me, I'll be showing you a bit of my studio place and writing process, and I'll also be sharing today's story in audiobook form. I'm a Korean artist and writer based in Korea, and every story on this channel is written and created by me. Today's story is about an omega protagonist whose lover's younger cousin, someone he met in childhood, returns 13 years later as an alpha, moves in next door, and becomes deeply obsessed with him. Please note that this story includes potentially uncomfortable themes such as confinement, addiction, and obsession, so viewer discretion is advised. This is part of an ongoing series, so please add it to your playlist and stay tuned for the next episode. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Since I'm Korean, my stories are naturally set in Korea. If you come across cultural details that are unfamiliar or confusing, feel free to leave a comment. I'll keep your feedback in mind for future videos. And if there's anything you'd like to talk about or ask, please share it in the comments. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy today's story. Seoul at night looked like a garbage dump wrapped in glittering paper. On the crowded subway ride home, Lee Sun-woo's reflection floated against the packed train window like a photograph, with all the saturation drained out, standing alone among the city's dazzling lights. 30? An age when he was supposed to be at the peak of his life, but all Sun-woo had left were endless Excel spreadsheets, credit card bills still weighed down by installment payments, and one disastrous romantic failure after another. Sun-woo was, by all accounts, hopelessly superficial when it came to faces. Not just a little seriously, catastrophically so. Every man he had dated throughout his 20s had looked like a sculpture come to life. Beautiful, flawless, breathtaking on the outside. But beneath those perfect shells were personalities as filthy as rotting garbage. Cheating was the least of it. Some had borrowed money from him, taking advantage of his gentle nature before disappearing without a trace. Others had slowly isolated him through gaslighting, cutting him off until all that was left was their control. His friends called him a collector of terrible men. At this point, they had long since given up even trying to warn him. It's all pointless. Back in his tiny studio apartment, Sun-woo threw himself onto the sofa without even bothering to turn on the lights. Whenever the emptiness came crashing in, he reached for the same habit without thinking. He opened his dating app. Not to look for someone he could truly talk to. Not for warmth or comfort or anything real. His only escape was scrolling through endless profiles of dazzlingly handsome men, one after another. Tonight was no different, as he flicked past face after face belonging to strangers he would probably never meet. He found himself thinking of a pair of eyes he had lost a very long time ago. The eyes of a boy, so clear that they had been impossible to read. 12 years ago, the summer when Sun-woo was 18 was especially humid and unbearably hot. That year, Sun-woo went in and out of the house of Min-seok, his best friend and first love, almost every single day. And there, in one corner of that house's living room, he met the child who crouched like a shadow for the very first time. His name is Yoon-ho. He's my cousin. His parents both died in an accident, and the shock hit him hard, so he doesn't speak. Just as Min-seok had explained, 10-year-old Yoon-ho was as quiet as a doll. His large eyes were unfocused, and his lips stayed tightly sealed. Selective mutism, brought on by the trauma of the accident. That was Yoon-ho's burden. Every time Sun-woo looked at that pitiful child, something inside his chest ached faintly. Maybe that was when it started his helpless tendency to be too kind for his own good. Little by little, Sun-woo began spending less time playing with Min-seok and more time talking to Yoon-ho, who always sat alone in the corner. Yoon-ho, do you want to do this with Hyung? I'll bring you something even better tomorrow. Yoon-ho never answered. But every time Sun-woo came by, those dark eyes followed his every movement. At the time, Sun-woo thought it was nothing more than the anxiety of a child with nowhere left to lean. The year Yoon-ho turned 11, a small incident took place. At a family gathering at Min-seok's house, Yoon-ho was being bullied by some of the younger relatives. They sneered at him, calling him a parentless brat, a freak who couldn't even speak. Surrounded by their mocking voices, Yoon-ho simply stared down at the floor with a blank expression. In truth, Yoon-ho was calculating exactly how he might break their ankles. But on the outside, he wore the mask of a good, pitiful victim. And then, the one who stepped in front of him was Sun-woo, still just a high school student. What do you think you're doing to him? Apologize right now. Sun-woo chased the other children away, then crouched down in front of Yunho so their eyes met. With a warm hand, he gently stroked Yunho's hair and smiled at him. Yunho, are you okay? You can tell Hyung. I'll help you with everything. In that moment, for the very first time in his life, Yunho felt a sharp thrill race through his brain. It was not the relief of being saved. It was the catharsis that came from the certainty that he could control someone completely. If I say I'm hurting, this person will do anything for me. If I act pitiful enough, he'll never be able to leave my side for the rest of his life. From that moment on, Yunho marked Sunwoo as both his prey and his only sanctuary. His sociopathic tendencies began to grow in a twisted, unnatural way, feeding on Sunwoo's kindness. Time passed, and Yunho turned 13. By then, Yunho was already growing into a build comparable to that of an adult man. But in front of Sunwoo, he was still the same fragile younger boy who spoke little. One night, Yunho heard the sound of Sunwoo and Minseok arguing fiercely at the entrance to the apartment building. Sunwoo's voice, usually so gentle, was trembling. Hidden out of sight as he watched them, Yunho saw something he could hardly believe. Minseok, who had been shouting in anger, suddenly shoved Sunwoo hard against the wall and kissed him. Startled, Sunwoo tried to push him away, but only for a moment. Soon, he wrapped his arms around Minseok's neck and accepted the kiss. Behind the apartment complex, beneath the glow of the streetlights, the shadows of the two men tangled together. An ordinary 13-year-old boy might have been shocked, but Yunho was different. His heart pounded with a thrill so intense it felt as if it might burst. So Hyung does things with men too. That means he could do something like that with me too. At that moment, a fierce heat exploded inside Yunho's body. The hormones that had been suppressed until then surged violently, sweeping through his entire frame. A chilling, overpowering scent burst from his body. It was his first alpha manifestation. But Yunho was far happier about the fact that Sunwoo could accept a man than he was about his own awakening. But then something unexpected happened. After parting ways with Minseok, Sunwoo never came back to that house again. His whereabouts became unknown, and for the first time, Yunho realized that his plan had gone wrong and he was furious. You said you'd help me, Hyung. Where did you go? Without even knowing Sunwoo's secondary gender, Yunho began chasing nothing but the scent and face of Sunwoo preserved in his memory. For 17 long years, Yunho grew into adulthood while designing the perfect, trap one that would let him keep Sunwoo completely caged when they finally met again. Back to the present. 30-year-old Sunwoo was still scrolling through the app. Then his finger stopped on one profile that stood out more than the others. There was no face photo, but the bio was strange. You can tell Hyung. I'll help you with everything. Sunwoo's heart gave a hard thud. Was it just a coincidence? Why were the exact words he had once used to comfort a child 17 years ago written here? Just as Sunwoo was about to send a message, he heard the sound of furniture being moved in apartment 302 next door. It sounded like someone was knocking against the walls of his heart. It seemed like someone was moving in. Sunwoo dismissed it as nothing important and looked back at the screen. But an unexplainable mix of anxiety and anticipation washed over him. And then, the next morning, when Sunwoo opened his door to leave for work, he came face to face with a man standing in the hallway. Tall, a jawline carved like a sculpture, and black eyes that had grown far deeper and far more dangerous than they had been 17 years ago. Sunwoo Hyung? A low, sweet voice. Those eyes, the ones Sunwoo had longed for his whole life, and feared just as much, were standing right in front of him. It was Shin Yunho. In the cold stillness hanging over the hallway, Sunwoo stopped breathing. 13 years. Long enough for the world to change almost twice over, and yet the little boy preserved in Sunwoo's memory was now standing right in front of him. But the word little boy would have been almost an insult to the man before him now. He was tall enough to tower a full head above Sunwoo, and his broad, well-built shoulders were imposing enough to nearly fill the doorway. More than anything, what unsettled Sunwoo was Yunho's face. Sunwoo had spent his entire 20s priding himself on the fact that he had seen every kind of handsome man there was. But Yunho's beauty was different. It was cold and noble, and at the same time carried the dangerous edge of a predator. Yunho, is it really you, Shin Yunho? Sunwoo's voice trembled in fine, helpless fragments. Instead of answering, Yunho stepped forward slowly. With every step he took, Sunwoo had the strange illusion that the air in the hallway was thinning. Yunho stopped directly in front of him, then lifted one large hand and let it hover near Sunwoo's cheek. Hyung, I really thought you had forgotten me. That low, rich voice. The The same shiver that had once run through Sunwoo's body, the first time the child who had gone silent after the accident had spoken his name, now swept through him all over again. Sunwoo could only stare up at Yunho, his lips parted like an idiot. My God, how did you get here? No, wait, your voice, are you okay now? As Sunwoo's questions poured out one after another, the corners of Yunho's eyes curved. It was unmistakably a gentle smile, and yet, in the depths beneath it, a twisted possessiveness rippled. You said you'd help me, Hyung. Hearing your voice made me want to speak. So I worked really hard in treatment. I wanted you to hear my voice. What an emotional reunion it was. Sunwoo's heart began to pound wildly. A beautiful younger man who had healed because of him, and who had come all this way to find him. Completely unaware of the cruel threats and enormous hush money, Yunho had used to force the previous tenant out and move into the apartment next door. Sunwoo looked at him with soft, helpless pity. Yunho said he still hadn't finished unpacking, and naturally made his way into Sunwoo's apartment. Sunwoo willingly opened the door for him. The tiny studio instantly felt crowded with Yunho's sheer size. You still smell nice, Hyung. Settling onto the sofa, Yunho wrinkled his nose slightly as if savoring the scent. Sunwoo laughed awkwardly and brought out coffee. Oh, come on. I probably smell like an old man. But you really grew up well. You could be a model. Isn't it because Hyung likes handsome men? At that pointed remark, Sunwoo nearly choked. 13-year-old Yunho had been the witness who saw Sunwoo kissing his older cousin. Sunwoo's face flushed bright red. Oh, right. Are you still in touch with Min-suk Hyung? The instant his cousin's name came up, the warmth in Yunho's eyes turned ice cold. But the moment Sunwoo turned his head and looked at him, Yunho's expression shifted back into that innocent younger boy face. No. After you and he stopped seeing each other, I cut ties with all the adults in that family too. Now you're all I have left, Sunwoo Hyung. Yunho quietly reached over and took Sunwoo's hand. His hand was cold. Feeling sorry for him, Sunwoo clasped it tightly in both of his own. Yunho lowered his head with a smile. What Sunwoo didn't see was the way Yunho's lips hovered near the back of his hand, indulging in it with a terrible, almost obsessive hunger, as if he were barely stopping himself from letting them brush against his skin. That night, Yunho returned to his own apartment and sat down in front of a wall of monitors that filled his living room. On the screens, Sunwoo's room was displayed in real time. Even the dating app Sunwoo used before falling asleep was being mirrored live. Sunwoo was still scrolling, still choosing by face. Then he matched with a man and started talking to him. Messages went back and forth until one line appeared. Shall we meet tomorrow evening? A savage light flashed in Yunho's eyes. He tore off his headset, grabbed his coat, and headed out. The next evening, the man who had been supposed to meet Sunwoo never showed up at the agreed location. Instead, in a dark alley, he found himself facing a beautiful monster. You look worse in person than in your photos. Has my Hyung's taste gotten worse, or are you just that good at editing? Yunho grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against the wall. The pheromones of a dominant alpha poured out of him with violent force. The man couldn't even breathe. Foam gathered at his mouth as he collapsed. Yunho pulled out the man's phone, deleted his chat with Sunwoo, and blocked Sunwoo's number. There's too much trash around my Hyung. I'll clean it all up for him. Yunho was about to grind the man's face under the heel of his shoe, but stopped himself. He decided he wouldn't do anything Sunwoo would hate. At least not until he was caught. A few days later, Sunwoo got stood up again on his way home from work. It was already the third time that week. Strangely, every man he matched with either disappeared right before the date or suddenly stopped responding. Is there seriously something wrong with me? As Sunwoo trudged down the hallway, a deep scent brushed against the tip of his nose. It was drifting out from apartment 302 next door. It smelled like a forest soaked in rain and at the same time like cold ice. The moment he inhaled it, the strength went out of his legs. His heart started pounding like mad, and an unfamiliar heaviness settled low in his abdomen. Sunwoo braced a hand against the wall and barely managed to stay upright. Hyung, what are you doing out here? The door opened, and Yunho appeared. Taking in the pale, sweat-damp look on Sunwoo's face, Yunho quickly moved to support him. The instant Sunwoo's body touched his, a soft moan escaped him before he could stop it, and he found himself pressing helplessly into Yunho's chest. Ah, Yunho, something's wrong with me. I'm so hot. Something strange gleamed in Yunho's eyes. At the back of Sunwoo's neck, a very faint, sweet scent was beginning to bloom. Sun Wu, who had lived all 30 years of his life believing he was a beta, was starting to manifest as an omega late and all at once triggered by the pheromones of Yunho, a dominant alpha. Yunho lifted Sun Wu into his arms as if he weighed nothing. "It's okay, Hyung. I'll help you, just like you did for me a long time ago." He laid Sun Wu down on his bed. Then, leaning close to his ear, Yunho whispered in a low voice, "Hyung, you have no idea how delicious you smell right now." Even through the haze clouding his mind, Sun Wu looked up at Yunho's face. It was unbearably beautiful. But that smile, it was no longer the smile of the kind child he had known 17 years ago. Sun Wu could barely think. The blood in his body had turned hot, like oil set to a boil. For all 30 years of his life, he had lived as a beta and had never once experienced anything like this, a dull, crushing pain low in his abdomen, tangled together with a strange, disorienting pleasure. Yunho's bedsheets smelled like the same cool forest scent that clung to him, and Sun Wu instinctively buried his face into the pillow, panting. Yunho, something is really wrong with me. I think I need to go to the hospital." With blurred eyes, Sun Wu grabbed at Yunho's sleeve, but Yunho only looked down at him without moving. If anything, he slowly wiped away the cold sweat beating on Sun Wu's forehead, his burning eyes fixed on the flushed nape of Sun Wu's neck. "Hyung, you can't go to the hospital. If the scent coming from you gets outside right now, it'll be a problem." "Scent? What scent?" "Peach. A very sweet, very obscene scent." Yunho's low voice vibrated against Sun Wu's ear. One by one, Yunho began undoing the buttons of Sun Wu's shirt. Sun Wu tried to push him away, but there was no strength in his hands. Instead, every time Yunho's fingers brushed his skin, his body jolted as if struck by electricity. "Hyung, you're manifesting as an omega. Very late too. It's probably because of my alpha pheromones." That's what the hospital told me. If I release my pheromones strongly enough, I have the constitution to change a beta's designation. I'm the one who made you like this. This was the handicap Yunho had been left with after the accident. If he exposed a beta to his pheromones continuously and intensely enough, he had the ability to force that beta to manifest as an omega. Yunho buried his nose against Sun Wu's collarbone and drew in a deep breath. The scent rising from Sun Wu as he began to manifest as an omega was more than enough to paralyze Yunho's reason. But instead of pouncing on him like an animal, Yunho caught Sun Wu by the chin and made him look at him. "Hyung, you're scared, right? I'll help you. I won't let anyone touch you except me." "Yunho, I don't think this is right." "It's okay, Hyung. I'll help you. Don't worry." Yunho pressed the lightest kiss to Sun Wu's lips. It was less a kiss than a brand declaring possession. Dazed by that overwhelming beauty and that scent, Sun Wu burrowed deeper into Yunho's arms, forgetting even that it was Yunho himself who had pushed him into this hell. The next day, Yunho took Sun Wu to a private hospital he had already prepared in advance. The hospital director had once been one of Yunho's scholarship students, a man who would have hidden even a corpse if Yunho ordered it. After a full series of examinations, Sun Wu was given a shocking result. "Yes, you are an omega. Your designation is so unstable that standard suppressants will not work on you. For the time being, daily life will be impossible unless you have either an imprinted alpha or pheromone care from a specific alpha." Everything went dark in front of Sun Wu's eyes. As if suddenly becoming an omega at the age of 30 was not enough, now he was being told he had become someone who could not even live on his own. The one who caught hold of the dazed, crumbling Sun Wu firmly from behind was Yunho. "Doctor, if I stay by Hyung's side, he'll be okay, right?" "Yes. Shin Yunho's designation is a dominant one, so he will be of great help to your older brother. It would be best if the two of you stayed together as much as possible." Everything had gone exactly according to Yunho's script. On the drive back, with the despairing Sun Wu sitting beside him, Yunho held his hand tightly. "Hyung, don't worry. I'll become your alpha. You just have to lean on me the way you used to." Comforted by Yunho's gentle words, Sun Wu began to cry. But Yunho's gaze was fixed outside the car window, watching the number of one of Sun Wu's ex-boyfriends repeatedly flashing across Sun Wu's phone screen. A cruel smile curled at the corner of his mouth. In front of Sun Wu's apartment, a familiar man was lingering. It was Sung Hoon, the ex-boyfriend who had borrowed money from Sun Wu, cheated on him, and gotten dumped 6 months ago. Having heard rumors that Sun Wu was doing well again at a major company, he had come crawling back in hopes of latching onto him as a source of money. "Lee Sun Wu, why aren't you answering my calls? Hey, we're not over yet." Sung Hoon grabbed Sun Wu roughly by the arm. Just as Sunwoo staggered back in shock, Yoonho, coming up from the parking lot, saw the whole scene. In an instant, something flipped in Yoonho's eyes. He pulled Sunwoo behind him and caught Sunghoon's wrist. Crack. The sickening sound rang through the hallway. "Ah, what the hell, who are you? Let go of my hand!" Hyung said he doesn't want you. Can't you hear him? Yoonho's voice was low, but it was filled with suppressed killing intent. He slammed Sunghoon against the wall and wrapped one hand around his throat. Sunghoon struggled in terror, but in front of the overwhelming force of a dominant alpha, he was powerless. "Yoonho, stop! You're going to kill him!" Sunwoo clung to Yoonho, trying to stop him. At the sound of Sunwoo's voice, Yoonho hesitated for a moment, then leaned close to Sunghoon's ear and whispered in a voice so chilling it made the air itself seem to freeze. "If you show up near my Hayoung one more time, next time I won't be breaking your wrist. I'll be cutting off your leash. Understand?" Yoonho flung Sunghoon to the floor. Terrified out of his mind, Sunghoon ran off without even managing to get his shoes on properly. Sunwoo trembled at the violent side of Yoonho he had never seen before. "Hyung, were you scared?" "I'm sorry. Seeing a man like that harassing you must have made me lose my mind." In an instant, Yoonho's eyes returned to the look of the good younger boy, and he wrapped his arms around Sunwoo. Sunwoo calmed the trembling in his heart within Yoonho's embrace. "No, you were helping me after all. Still, it was too dangerous. Hyung, the world is full of bastards like that. Your problem is that you're too kind. So from now on, don't meet anyone without my permission. Okay?" Yoonho whispered against Sunwoo's ear, nipping lightly at his earlobe. "Hyung only needs me. And I only need Hyung." In Yoonho's arms, Sunwoo felt a strange sense of relief, a dangerous illusion that in this terrible world, only this beautiful, strong younger man could protect him. As Yoonho stroked Sunwoo's hair, he was already planning the next step, how to completely bury Sunghoon socially after driving him away. Yoonho's obsession had begun to move beyond simple protection. It was becoming a sanctuary one that slowly devoured Sunwoo's soul. After the incident with Sunghoon's attack, Sunwoo gave in to Yoonho's firm insistence and moved into his apartment. Apartment 302. For a place that was supposedly just next door, it felt far too alien and far too spacious. The interior was entirely monochrome, and every piece of furniture had been arranged with sharp, deliberate precision. It was a space without the slightest disorder, almost like its owner's personality made visible. "Hyung, I already moved all your things. Your room is the one farther inside." Yoonho wrapped an arm around Sunwoo's shoulders and smiled gently. Still a little dazed, Sunwoo slipped into the slippers Yoonho handed him. It was much more comfortable and secure than his own apartment had ever been, and yet the click of the front door locking behind him sounded strangely heavy. "Yoonho, I just hope I'm not causing you too much trouble. I'll get myself back together soon and move out. Trouble? Not at all. I'm doing this because I want to. Hyung, all you have to do is stay here and look at me." As Yoonho unpacked Sunwoo's belongings, he even mixed each piece of Sunwoo's underwear into his own dresser drawers. Sunwoo thought it was a little excessive, but he brushed it aside as nothing more than the earnest devotion of a younger man who wanted to take care of him. But there was something Sunwoo did not know. Every wall in the apartment had been stuffed with soundproofing material, and the windows had all been replaced with reinforced specialty glass that could never be broken from the inside. On the 7th day of staying in Yoonho's apartment, Sunwoo suddenly felt something was wrong. During the hours when Yoonho had gone to work and he was left alone, Sunwoo noticed a faint glint in one corner of the living room ceiling. "What is that?" Looking closer, he found a tiny pinhole camera hidden beside the smoke detector. A chill ran down his spine. As if bewitched, Sunwoo began searching the apartment from one end to the other, behind the bathroom mirror, between the bedroom lamps, even inside the kitchen ventilation fan. The entire apartment was filled with eyes watching him. "Yoonho, is he spying on me?" With trembling hands, Sunwoo turned on his phone. He was about to open his chat with Yoonho when a message appeared across the screen. "Access restricted by administrator privileges." Yoonho had already installed spyware on Sunwoo's phone, intercepting all of his calls and messages, even his location data. Sunwoo couldn't breathe. The kind, pitiful younger boy named Yoonho that he thought he had known was nowhere to be found. In his place stood a meticulous, deranged predator. The sound of the electronic lock at the front door clicked open. Sunwoo hurriedly sat down on the sofa, pretending he had not discovered the cameras. His heart was pounding wildly. "Hyung, I'm back. Did anything happen today?" Yoonho came in with the same bright smile as always. In his hand was a peach cake, Sunwoo's favorite. Yoonho walked over to the rigid, frozen Sunwoo on the sofa and pressed a light kiss to his forehead. But before he could stop himself, Sunwoo flinched. Yoonho's eyes narrowed in an instant. He caught Sunwoo by the chin and forced him to look up. "Hyung, what's wrong? Are you hurt somewhere?" Yoonho's voice was still soft, but the pressure hidden inside it closed around Sunwoo's throat. Biting his lips, Sunwoo shook his head. "No, I just don't feel very well." "You shouldn't lie, Hyung. Your eyes always drift to the left when you lie." Yoonho snatched Sunwoo's phone and threw it to the floor. Crack. The screen shattered. Sunwoo let out a cry and tried to get up, but Yoonho shoved him back down onto the sofa roughly. "You keep looking outside, and it makes me anxious." "I only did it because I hate seeing bad people keep circling around you. I love you so much, Hyung, so why won't you understand how I feel?" Putting on the act of someone on the verge of tears, Yoonho buried his face against the back of Sunwoo's neck. And under the excuse of helping Sunwoo fully manifest as an Omega, he injected a high-concentration hormone, solution something he had obtained from the black market, into Sunwoo's arm. The moment the injection entered his bloodstream, Sunwoo's body arched with a violent spasm. A brutal heat swept through every inch of him. The Omega hormones, dragged out of him by force, began craving Yoonho's alpha pheromones and gnawing away at what remained of his reason. Eunho, please help me, it's too hot." Crying and gasping, tears and snot running down his face, Sunwoo clutched desperately at Yoonho's shirt. Yoonho looked down at him with cold, detached eyes, watching him for a long moment before slowly undoing his own belt. "Hyung, I told you, didn't I? I said I'd help you. I'm gonna make it so you can't even breathe without me anymore." Yoonho's harsh alpha pheromones filled the entire room. With a cry torn between disgust and pleasure, Sunwoo clung to him. His mind wanted to reject Yoonho, but the Omega instincts that had been forcibly engineered into his body by the drug were commanding him to submit to the dominant alpha standing before him. That night, Yoonho bit deeply into the back of Sunwoo's neck. It was not a simple wound, but an artificial imprint, one that injected Yoonho's pheromones into him and permanently altered Sunwoo's constitution. Even as pain dragged him toward unconsciousness, Sunwoo thought that Yoonho's face whispering, "I love you, Hyung. You're really mine now," as he held him, was the most beautiful and horrifying thing in the world. After the imprint, Sunwoo's world was compressed into the giant coffin that was apartment 302. The concentrated hormone solution Yoonho had injected into him, combined with the heavy saturation of alpha pheromones, fundamentally rewrote Sunwoo's body from the ground up. Now, whenever Yoonho was not beside him, his breathing became ragged, and he suffered through withdrawal. So severe it felt as though his entire body were burning alive. He had become an addict. "Hyung, today's lunch is cream pasta, your favorite. I made it myself." Still wearing an apron, Yoonho entered the bedroom with a gentle smile. Depending on the thin silk ribbon tying him to the headboard, Sunwoo barely managed to lift himself upright. Red chafing marks stood out clearly on his wrists. The traces of all the times he had struggled desperately to escape had now turned into helpless submission. "Yoonho, I need to contact work. If I keep missing work without notice, they'll fire me." At Sunwoo's cracked voice, Yoonho's eyes turned cold for a brief moment. Twisting pasta neatly around a fork, he lifted it to Sunwoo's lips and whispered, "Don't worry, Hyung. I already sent in your resignation to your company. I forged all the paperwork, so it looks like you were suddenly transferred to an overseas branch and had to leave immediately. I even sent a farewell message to your coworkers, just like you would have." A tear slipped from Sunwoo's eye. 10 years of work, his relationships, his place in society. All of it had been erased with nothing more than a few movements of Yoonho's fingers. Yoonho licked the tear from Sunwoo's cheek and smiled, looking deeply satisfied. "Now you have no one left but me. Isn't that what we always wanted?" Yoonho's obsession had gone far beyond sexual indulgence. It was closer to keeping than desire, closer to breeding, taming, raising something in captivity. He never gave Sunwoo even a moment to regain his senses. Every night, Yoonho flooded Sunwoo's body with his pheromones, forcing him deeper and deeper into heat. Eunho, please stop. I feel like I'm gonna die." Drenched in sweat, Sunwoo pushed weakly against Yoonho's shoulders, but the Omega instincts that had been chemically rewritten into his body screamed for pleasure every time Yoonho touched him. Even as Sunwoo suffered, Yoonho felt a near-transcendent catharsis in the sight of him clinging desperately to him. "Hyung, look. Your body wants me like this. Without me now, you're nothing but a pitiful Omega who can only cry like a beast." Yunho sank his teeth once more into the marked place at the back of Sunwoo's neck, biting deep into the imprint. Sunwoo's mind was full of disgust, but his body collapsed anyway, craving Yunho's warmth. It was the process of having his soul castrated. Meanwhile, Kang Min, Sunwoo's college senior and now a highly successful entrepreneur in the IT industry, felt an unbearable sense of alarm over Sunwoo's sudden resignation and complete disappearance. Sunwoo had always been responsible and kind. There was no way Kang Min could believe that a man like him would abruptly resign and vanish overnight under the excuse of a transfer to an overseas branch without any warning signs at all. Using all of his connections and technical resources, Kang Min began tracing Sunwoo's last known movements. When he discovered that Sunwoo's phone registration had been altered and that his credit card records had been carefully manipulated, he became convinced that this was not a simple disappearance, but a meticulously planned captivity. At the end of his search, Kang Min arrived at the apartment next to Sunwoo's 302. The tenant there was Shin Yunho. The little boy Sunwoo used to look after had grown into a genius program developer, known in the security industry and worse, into a dangerous dominant alpha who had surrounded Sunwoo's life with digital walls. A chill spread through Kang Min's chest. One rainy afternoon, carrying a black umbrella, Kang Min pressed the doorbell to apartment 302. Through the tiny lens of the intercom camera, his eyes looked cold and unforgiving. "Who is this?" Yunho's voice came through the intercom, smooth and cold as a machine. It sounded like the warning of an administrator whose perfect server had just been trespassed on. Instead of answering, Kang Min explosively released his dominant alpha pheromones, flooding the hallway in an instant. A heavy, threatening scent of cherrywood seeped through the cracks of apartment 302's door. "I came for Lee Sunwoo. Shin Yunho, that's you, right? Hand him over. Now." The moment the heavy door of apartment 302 opened, the air in the hallway seemed to scream. Yunho stood there with the sleeves of his white shirt still rolled up, looking as calm as someone who had just stepped away from his coding for a moment. But his eyes were filled with the savage madness of a beast ready to tear an intruder apart. Without hesitation, Kang Min explosively unleashed his dominant alpha pheromones. The cold, weighty scent of cherrywood pushed its way into the living room, sweeping aside the artificial fragrances Yunho had layered throughout the space. Yunho did not back down. He released his own pheromones in return, a sharp, metallic scent laced with citrus. The tension inside the room became so suffocating that it almost felt as if sparks were flying where the two pheromones collided. "Shin Yunho, I know exactly what you did to Sunbae. Hand him over. Right now." At Kang Min's roar, Yunho gave him a dark, vicious smile and set down his wine glass. "Hand him over? Hyung is here because he chose to be. He can't even breathe without me now. There's no place here for an unwanted guest like you." Kang Min had already guessed what kind of meticulous trap Yunho might have laid. Instead of recklessly throwing himself into a physical fight, he kept Yunho's attention on him and bought time. The moment Kang Min stepped through the doorway, the police following the location, data and evidence of unlawful confinement he had sent in advance began filling the hallway outside. "Police, nobody move!" The front door was kicked open violently, and armed officers poured into the apartment. The easy smile vanished from Yunho's face in an instant. He turned toward the bedroom, grinding his teeth. The flawless security system he had designed was being torn open helplessly before the brute physical force of the law Kang Min had brought with him. "Sunwoo!" While the police pinned Yunho down, Kang Min ran straight into the bedroom. There, in the corner of the bed, was Sunwoo drenched in sweat, curled up with unfocused eyes. Seeing him unable to even hold himself upright because of the drugs and the imprint felt like someone was tearing Kang Min's chest open. "Sunwoo, it's me. Kang Min. It's okay now. Come with me." Kang Min carefully lifted Sunwoo into his arms. With trembling fingers, Sunwoo clutched weakly at Kang Min's clothes and forced his lips apart. "Thank you, Kang Min, you really came." With that single sentence, Sunwoo lost consciousness and let his head fall against Kang Min's chest. Holding him tightly, Kang Min shot Yunho a cold, merciless look. Pinned to the floor in handcuffs, Yunho lifted his head and looked at Kang Min and Sunwoo. Even with his hair in disarray and bruises blooming across his cheek, there was still a chilling smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Ha ha!" Yunho's crazed laughter echoed through the living room. An officer yanked him roughly to his feet, but Yunho's gaze remained fixed on Sunwoo, lying in Kang Min's arms. "Kang Min, you think you've won, don't you? Go ahead. Take him. Let's see how well you can keep him." His voice dropped into a low, frigid whisper. My mark is already carved into Hyung's body. Without the drugs I made, without the imprint I gave him, he'll spend the rest of his life convulsing and dying in agony. He's addicted now to the poison called me. In the end, Hyung will come back to me. I've already remade his body into something that can't survive without me. Even as the police dragged him away, Yoonho kept twisting around to look back, smiling all the while. It was not the frantic struggle of a loser. It was the ease of a predator absolutely certain that the trap he had dug was already buried deep inside Sunwoo's soul. Carrying Sunwoo toward the ambulance, Kang Min could not shake the ominous feeling pressing down on him, because the vicious scent of Yoonho's pheromones clinging to Sunwoo's body felt like a tattoo that would never, ever be erased. Please look forward to what's coming next. Don't forget to subscribe. New stories will be uploaded soon. I will be back with even more compelling and unforgettable stories.